least, to expand a little bit more, I have some devious intentions in this portion of the campaign. Of course, this is the stage where you start to think about becoming independent, where you start to think about separating yourself from the dipshits in charge, like most of us in this campaign. I feel like my boss is incompetent and I could probably do his job better than him. But we will continue to pile up fiefs. We must have more fiefs for this campaign. And Ov Castle here, I think, is the layout of a castle I really want to defend. So let's go ahead and siege Ov Castle here. Let's start an episode we'll just break it right back there. Welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. Welcome back to our Valandian, also known as the Battanian Campaign. We're doing both campaigns at the same time here, and I got to admit it's a little bit jarring for me. We're filming episodes of the epic Finalizing campaign, which is much harder, and then I'll switch to this guy who's a much lower level character but a much easier campaign. A very strange sort of alternate universe of campaigns that we're doing now. These are nice, right? These events are actually really interesting, right? So I basically had a choice there of deciding whether or not to send my troops in to breach the wall or not. In this situation, to expedite this speed, I decided, yes, let's siege. At the beginning of this, by the way, I purposefully went around that Sturgeon force because I want them to attack us. I know that sounds strange, but it's the easiest way to get rid of your enemies, is just to have them come to you and have them dash themselves against our incredibly powerful army. Rather than chase them all down, I actually put in, right before I started this order, I put in an Amazon order. I said 24 hours or less. I need all of the sturgeons to arrive on our porch, at which point we will collect them all and then put them into the graveyard. So we're slowly developing skills here as a siege commander, and this is going to be one of the harder things to develop in this campaign. We may not do defense very much in this campaign. I know some guys want to see siege defense, but we're sort of cruising through so long and so fast, that we really haven't had good opportunities for siege defense. Maybe we'll try to make one happen just so you guys can see how it goes. But also, with an army of 700, we don't need to fight siege defense. We just smash them in the open. Now here, despite the fact there's a wall down, I still want to destroy their counter siege, right? They have fire catapults. They're going to do huge damage to our army, and our troops are still dear, right? We're still collecting Fiends, we're still collecting skirmishers. Very important for the upcoming process. That's about as much of a teaser as I need to give you. Most of you guys know exactly what's about to happen in this campaign, but very important that we collect troops, fight efficiently, and smash our enemies into next week so we can upgrade, so that when it's finally our time to shine in this campaign, we're going to be ready. Now, these guys are aiming at the wall instead of the fire catapult. That remains a frustration for me. You can't make them do that shit. And hello, this is actually perfect, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of players, you might be uncomfortable. There's two different large armies converging here. Some smaller armies will join them, and that's what we want, right? Come smash yourself on the porch. Thank you for that Amazon delivery. I gotta admit, Amazon, that was a good job delivering within 24 hours. That was like 4 minutes. Man, you guys are fast. Now, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, one of these armies didn't even arrive. So we don't have all the rats in one trap. We're still going to have an army of sturgeons out there. That's okay, though, right? That army of 500 is just inconsequential to this army we wield. Now, I'm aware at this stage that you guys have seen probably enough open field battles against the sturgeons with the Battanians here. So we're gonna kind of blaze through some of these battles. I'm not gonna be quite as perfectionist, but what did I just mention, right? I don't want us to suffer 150, 200 losses here with using like the sergeants in control or something like that. I need our skirmishers to upgrade. I need our highborn warriors to become heroes, to become fiends, to become fiend champions. It's very important in this stage of a campaign to develop that army and protect those units. Now, I know I've harped on that before, but when you could perform just basic tactics, right? We're going to continue to do some more complex tactics. We're going to do very complex tactics over the course of this episode, over the course, maybe not this episode, but over the course of this campaign, because I'm essentially trying to satiate both the entertainment levels of the fellows watching, but also teach a wide skill variety in Bannerlord. There's a huge learning curve to Bannerlord. I remember, I say it all the time, and I don't know if guys don't believe me. I just keep saying it because I also think it's funny. I used to get annihilated by looters, just like everybody else. I actually went like 3 or 4 battles where I couldn't figure out how to command my units. I certainly couldn't command my units and ride a horse and not get killed at the same time. So then I tried just driving around on my horse, trying to stab looters, and they picked up rocks and pebbles from the creek and killed me. And I quit Bannerlord. I played like 2 or 3 weeks, and I was like, this game is way too complicated. I don't understand all the commands. A couple weeks later, I was like fiending for something like this. I was like, but man, it's pretty cool. You got these giant battlefields. And unlike games like Total War, you know, where you have control of globs of units, in Bannerlord, you control every single dude pretty much. And they all have a little AI, right? They're all trying to survive. It feels like real medieval battles. And I was like, I got to try this again. So like many people, I went to YouTube. I learned some basics about command. I learned things like a shield wall and spread. And here we are, right? And of course, I'm adding this kind of narration, and because you guys don't need to hear for the 12th time, okay, we're kiting back with the 7th Division. The skirmishers are unloading javelins as they back up. The 7th Archers have been maneuvered to be behind the enemy. They can now charge. Now what I'm going to do is just drag cavalry over and over again through their routing ranks, right? You guys, at this stage, most of you gather it. And I love to hear the continued feedback that I used your tactics and I destroyed an army 3 times as large as mine. I'd never even won against 2. You know, I love hearing that kind of stuff. That means the secret sauce works. Tactics work in Bannerlord. Long ago, and I say long ago, like a year ago on the channel, I ran a handful of episodes that basically said tactics are hugely... It posed the question, are tactics necessary in Bannerlord? Do they work? Is there a reason to do it? And unfortunately, that was when Bannerlord was kind of in the doldrums. That was when Bannerlord was kind of, you know, my channel was kind of slow. I was getting 300 views a video. Maybe we'll make a new one right now that the population, the Bannerlord population, is reviving. But it's amazing, the difference, right? And again, I illustrate this point all the time. You know, the best reason to use tactics in Bannerlord? Never mind the success. Fuck all that. Never mind the upgrades to the units and all the other stuff. It's the satisfaction you're going to feel from winning a battle where you were in charge, right? Where you commanded stuff. In the modern society, that's one of the things that psychologists have learned. It's why we're so depressed. And what I mean by that is not you necessarily. You might be super happy, but a lot of people are depressed in the modern civilized world. And that is because we rarely accomplish something on our own anymore. Let me explain. Basically, and maybe you're a psychiatrist and you're out there literally saving lives or something like that, but a lot of people have jobs where they work on a part of a job, right? They're a collaboration of maybe you're doing editing for a media company, or maybe you work as an IT person for a company, whatever it might be, right? Maybe you're making sandwiches for a living. By the way, almost all of us did that at one point. You don't really, I guess you could be proud of your sandwiches, but back in the day, people would accomplish something virtually on their own, right? They would make a whole beautiful table as a carpenter. They would build an entire covered wagon all by themselves, right? Or maybe they collaborated with one person. But the point I'm trying to make is that in the modern era, because of I mean, it's basically the factory system where we work on parts. Granted, there's not a huge amount of manufacturing, at least in America anymore, but we work on parts of stuff. Even people building cars today, and there are some that are using robotics and stuff like that, they don't build the whole car. They build like a door, or they build the dash panel and put the computer. They don't get to see that final product. And the social scientists and the psychiatrists are not unanimous, but there's a very strong feeling that lack of production, that lack of accomplishment is part of the reason that modern society is just kind of sad, right? They're just sort of depression rates and suicide rates and domestic violence and stuff like that. We see it with our job, right? It'd be interesting actually to know the rates, how much they've increased, especially as a firefighter. We see more, right? We see more, a lot of that kind of stuff. Now, this battle is forcing me to ramble on, so we're just going to suicide here. This is the only way, without the RTS mod, I can speed up the battle. It'll be shitty if my character dies here, but at least we'll be able to finish the end of the battle. And this is another example, another suggestion for Tail Worlds. When the battle's over like this, you need to be able to hit a button that says end the battle, right? We have all these different automation parts of Bannerlord. You know, when you have, you should be able to hit that fast forward button without taking a beat down first. I think that seems like a very obvious change. I shouldn't have to use the RTS mod, not to mention thousands of people can't use RTS mod, right? They're playing on a console. So just a little tiny thing there at the end of that. Let me finish that point. We're going to continue to blast our way through Ov Castle here. We're actually over some troops here, so I'm going to spread them around our companions. We will talk about our companions because we're going to develop them into player clans for this campaign. We're going to play out a full campaign, but as I've said before, we're not going to siege down and take every single city and castle in the game. That's another thing that I have an opinion on. I don't think that makes any sense unless you really enjoy it. And I hear people, it's so grueling to siege down every single... So don't do it then. You don't get paid $10,000 for conquering every city or castle. To me, the end game of Bannerlord is when you have about a third of the territory. Literally, that's it. Like, you can just turn it over. Is that a little bit of a buzzkill or a kind of an anticlimactic ending? Maybe so, but enjoy the journey. Don't worry about the destination. Right? This is the fun part. The fun part is where battles are tight, you're strategizing, you're considering making a kingdom, you're assigning player clans, you're building up characters, you're having sex, and you're making children. This is the best part of Bannerlord right here. It's kind of the middle game. And if you say the end game is shitty, well, just change what you feel is the end game of Bannerlord. Like I said, when you have roughly a third of the territory on a map, the end game's over. You've won. And admittedly, there's not some kind of crescendo like a Lord of the Rings style monstrous battle at the end of every campaign. That's just, it's the nature of how the game is built. Finishing that point here, we're also assigning captains for the first time in Siege, so I need a 30 seconds here. I've done 4 archer divisions, 2 skirmisher divisions, and 2 infantry divisions. The first, hopefully, we're going to be able to develop a really strong Delta force because they will push in holes like this. We will use skirmishers to flank and shellac the enemy with arrows, and then the archers, as you'll see, we do a force majeure approach with archers, which is basically... We don't worry about cover in sieges. When you have the Battanians, you own the fucking battlefield. And what I mean by that is the ranged battlefield. These pathetic troops on the wall here are about to get completely obliterated. They have no chance to have a single archer or skirmisher on the walls here. And we're going to systematically take this castle. You know, shoot some of these guys off the wall here. We got our new mouse, and I'm adjusting a little bit to the different settings, so we're starting to dial it in. But just to finish that point, and I know I've said that 9 times probably and keep interrupting myself. In Bannerlord, I think it's one of the best ways to improve that part, improve the feeling of satisfaction that you did something, you accomplished something. Us in this relatively mundane portion of our lives, that you were the commander, that you were the hero, right? This is your ability here. This motherfucker getting on the walls. Have an arrow in the neck, dude. Right in the head, it said. This is your opportunity, basically, to accomplish something where you don't get to maybe at work. Here you go. You get to be the hero. That's why we play video games, because life can be a little boring, and video games like this will just drop us right in to be the hero. So we're going to bring that first division in here, although the enemy does seem to vigorously defend the wall here. Look at the javelin fire, right? These poor bastards are fucked. We're going to blitz this castle, and this siege is over, right? We're just going to be able to storm to this. Oh, shit. Well, someone got revenge there and shot me in the neck. So, never mind all of that. We botched it pretty bad, but look at those commands are still coming out. And, of course, we have holes in the walls here. So between the aerial assault here and getting through the hole there, it really didn't matter. We just absolutely trucked this city, and mission accomplished, right? We take an arrow in the neck going first. That's got to be good for morale for the guys. They see we're heroic, right? Take an arrow in the neck in a video game. Don't do it in real life, right? All right, so this castle's ours, and I hope for Ov Castle. It's definitely a nice defense layout, be a nice buttress to our eastern flank. Now we're going to head up to the peninsula. We're going to do a little bit of expansion for the Battanian Empire, but as you'll see, I don't really mean this for the Battanian Empire. All right, friends, we are doing a little bit of after narration here because I'm going to cut out about a 20-minute segment of this episode. You guys don't necessarily need to see every single component of this campaign. We're going to start to to sort of gloss over some of these battles that are either repetitive or just a complete massacre. In this case, of course, a Sturgeon force running from us against our ranged heavy Battanian force in the open with tactics. It's no contest. You guys have already seen this. So we're going to start mixing this in more and more. What I mean mixing in more and more is basically after editing, where I give you guys either a summary, a little bit of highlights, or some other sort of truncated portion of the campaign. I don't want this campaign to be 60 episodes. Now, I may do that in the future. There are several comments almost every time I say something like this that guys want to see every minute of a campaign. And all I can say to that is your best bet is Patreon down the road. I may make full episodes that don't clog up the YouTube channel, but that are on Patreon without ads, and they show every minute of a campaign. That's not something, though, that I want to do on the main channel and just completely clog up the episode. All right, so with all that said, let's get back to live narration. We're going to have to sell some prisoners, but mostly I want to pick up a bunch of fresh troops here because I have delusions of grandeur here. We are going to make a little expansion into this frozen northwestern peninsula here, and hopefully expand our fledgling kingdom, right? Just like the Dark Knight, like the Joker said, a little time for a little aggressive expansion. Now these nobles have really cool sort of golden axes. This gal's pregnant. I like this new coloring. I'm not sure if they're new axes or not. Of course, there is new equipment with this mod, not the mod, with this version. I mean, I guess it is a mod. It's a Tale Worlds created mod. Now we're going to pick up a bunch of elite troops here because we are making a sally into the Sturgeon Northwest Peninsula. That means Revel. That means Ustakol Castle. We're going to have to speak Russian and tell these Sturgeon fucks, "Niet our land." All right, let's see here. I speak 2 words in Russian. I think that's one of them. I think that means no. I think the other one that I speak, most of you fellows speak as well. It's bistro, bistro. That comes from a historical context here. Now I'm loading up on food, and we're going to continue to sell goods here because I'm fucking broke. This continues to be a new adjustment for me. Of course, we became a vassal very early on in this campaign, which is normally not recommended, but especially so with this new loot change. There's so much less loot in battles from Bannerlord. We're used to being rich at this stage, and basically we're like paycheck to paycheck. So all you poor college students out there, at least for the next hour or two, we're going to feel exactly like you guys. And you're like, shut the I'm going to be grumbling all day. All right, so I'm going to try to fill our companion armies with troops here, and I've got a little strategy developing in my head. I will explain it more as we progress, but I also, it's going to leave it a little bit of a mystery for you guys as to what I'm doing here. I like to have you guys participate. I like your brains stimulated as well as mine. We're doing something that's kind of diabolical here. I've got some nefarious plans, and hopefully it all works out like I'm planning. This peninsula is a nice place to defend, right? There's only one way in. We've added our wife to the army here, and we're going to hopefully bring 700-800 troops up there and siege Revel. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm sorting through the armies because I don't want an army full of volunteers. I don't want 55 shieldless, insta-dead Battanians with us. And unfortunately, most of the Battanian armies right now are really weak. We've had some war setbacks. Mostly that's happening out west, right? Almost like Napoleon said, everywhere we are not is just disaster after disaster. A trade agreement. All right, so we've got some new stuff going on here, and nobody wants it, I guess. We oppose it. We oppose a trade agreement, and I can't sway the decision. Well, who wants it then? I'm not going to vote. I guess the Northern Empire must have sent an envoy saying, "Hey, we want a trade agreement," and our battalions are like, "F no." Not just no, but F no. Northern Empire scum, no trade alliance. So it's going to be interesting to fiddle with the diplomacy system, right? And of course, to do so, you must be your own kingdom. Now, this is part of my strategy, part of my thinking. Notice where the Battanian armies are, right? That's a little bit of a hint what we're doing here. They're a long ways away, which, of course, some of you guys instantly know then what we're planning. Now, we're definitely going to round up Sturgeons, right? Sturgeon forces here, we don't want them loose. They might raid villages. Our alliance just ended with the Aserai. Unfortunately, we never really got major battles with the Aserai because of that alliance, because of where the fighting was. It seemed like most of the fighting was up north. Hopefully, we have more allied fighting in the future. And at a minimum, on the channel, we're going to have some mega 2x2 3x3 maybe even battles where there are multiple kingdoms allied with each other. Although I imagine you can only be allied with one kingdom at a time. I don't actually know, fellas. Maybe you guys can put in the comments if you know you can be allied with 3 other kingdoms. All right, so I want these nobles to leave Revel, right? This is the easiest way to make them leave. They're usually just stupid enough. Even though we're right here, they just leave the defenses of the city. They should just sit there. Like if there's a big army roaming by, I don't know about you guys, but I would have a tendency to sit in the city. If I knew I was anticipating a big siege, I can picture all you players out there that are like, how come they won't siege me, right? And you guys are hanging out in a city and there's a huge army roaming around and you've got your 500 Fiend champs locked and loaded. I see the posts on Reddit, and I'm not saying it's you guys. We got some more bloody flux here. I'm used to these by now, right? Like I said before, the events are a little bit too often. But the guys, it's funny on Reddit, the guys have, 400 cons guards and 300 Fiend champions, and they're sitting in a city with 1,200 troops, and there's an army of 1,400 outside, and they're like, these sons of bitches won't attack. Yeah, because they're for sure dead, not like sort of dead. Automatically 0% chance of victory, right? So I'm surprised that none of the Sturgeon forces stayed in the city, although then again, I'm not terribly surprised, right? The AI, again, it doesn't really act like a 100 IQ person, and we're still hoping that Tail Worlds makes those adjustments. We're going to build trebuchets here and pound down their counter siege. I've just gotten used to doing this. I'm not in a tremendous hurry right now. I'll explain why. First, I have help. So even if Varcheg, our only other city, is under siege, it's conceivable that Battanian forces will respond to it before we even get there and smash whatever's attacking it. Second, we're pretty close. I'm probably 2 days march at most from Varcheg. And if you know the timing of siege, almost no army in the game is going to take a well-defended city in 2 days, right? Salahadin himself would take a week, right? So we're not concerned about time here. Much more concerned about casualties, because if we have a successful siege here, and now that we have 1,000 troops, I anticipate a successful siege, we're going to go straight to Ov Castle. I'm probably going to show... let's see, we'll probably show this and Ov Castle as far as the siege assault, but I don't want to bore you guys to death either. I'm just going to talk about this process. We'll talk about my philosophies. Since our catapults and trebuchets are being so effective here, I might as well let them blow that wall down. Much easier to take a city when the wall is down. I always make sure there's a ram though, too. Don't attack a city where there's just a hole. Make sure you have 2 entrances. That's what he said. We'll load up on some prisoners here. 106. Yeah, we're in good shape. We can basically blow through this city. I'm not sure if I want to use siege here. It's one of those things. I need to level this guy's siege skill, and one of the easiest ways to do it, virtually risk-free, is to just sit on a catapult and chuck rocks in and destroy little peasants' homes and stuff like that. Hit some poor servant who's like 5 blocks up from the siege. And you get skill points. You actually get more skill points if you hit the servant in the face with a rock. And of course, you guys get my dark sense of humor by now. Probably you're on another channel if you don't like my dark sense of humor, because it comes with me. It's like a bad smell. I like a little darkness in my humor. Definitely a Coen Brothers fan. All right, let's spread out the 2nd and 5th. I'm going to do this fairly simplistically, right? We could just blast through the city here, but I think I will sit on this it's not even a fire catapult, it's a regular catapult. Hopefully we can fire a few rocks in there and kill some of these sturgeons. I really want to get to 125 to 150 siege skill. That's when you start to get access to the fire catapults, and that's an immensely valuable resource in siege. So they got a hole in the wall here, but we're not just going to rush through it. I'm actually going to jockey a division back and forth here with archer support, skirmishers. We're going to kind of play cat and mouse here for a few minutes in this siege. Now, do you need to do any of this stuff? Absolutely not. Why am I showing you this? Well, partly because I'm making content on YouTube, right? We're going to show you stuff maybe you've never seen before. Also, I don't want to have a really hard siege later on where we have a huge amount of casualties. Especially this city, I'm hoping to be voted for Revel. So if we have a lot of casualties, these nobles that are with us will put a lot less troops inside the city. Basically how that works is when you take a city, almost all of the armies that are participating in the siege, it's almost like a quota. they will dump some troops in the garrison, 10, 20, 30, and it's in relation to how many troops they have. So if they're raggedy and they have 45 troops each because you get plastered in the siege and it's really bloody, they may only leave like 5 or 10 troops. But if they have 150 or 200, they might leave 50 or 30 or something like that, and there might be a garrison of 300 there. What's that mean for us here? That means free troops. They will just put troops into the city, and if we can use our influence, or there's enough nobles that like us, they hit like on our city prioritization social media site, then we'll get this city, and all those troops come with it, free. Now, we have to pay for them, and what I mean by that is the upkeep, right? You have to pay their wages, but it's really nice to instantly have a strong garrison here. That's part of the reason I'm trying to minimize casualties. The other reason, of course, is we continue to show you tactics that'll work in harder situations. I can't make hard situations occur in Bannerlord unless I'm using mods, and there aren't any mods for 1.3. Easy, boy. Ah! He wouldn't let me get on. Get off my catapult. Frickin' surf. Alright. Now, all I'm doing here is jockeying back and forth one infantry division because I want the enemy basically coming out of their little rat hole. Right? As soon as they stick their face out that hole, I'm trying to drill them... with these rocks. Damn it, this horse. I want the horse, because if I can get a hold of that horse, we're going to be able just to absolutely sweep through the city. Horses have changed their behavior. You notice how it's kind of sauntering away. A lot of times in this situation, horses would run off the map. It's like they kind of get spooked, but Tailworlds understands that you might want your horse. Oh shit, let's try to cut him off. We got him. We got him. Easy boy, easy boy. Here, have an apple. Here, have an apple. Chill. All right. And it's no good to you, obviously, if it runs off the map, but basically it's the same thing as retreating. All right, so what we're going to do here is just drag these forces inside. A lot of people have a tendency to charge at a siege. I mention this all the time. Don't do that. Just take these troops, the 1st, 2nd, and 5th, jump over the defenders. There's not nearly enough at that door to stop us. And now we're in, right? Now I have these units following me, F1, F2, and I don't have to do anything now other than just stay alive. Now, if you're not alive here, of course, it'll revert to the AI, and these troops will probably just kill themselves, just on the spot, stab themselves in the face, or something else stupid. But as long as they're following me and I'm inside the city, they're going to pour through that hole. And look at that. They look like diarrhea coming out of a butthole. They're just pouring through every single orifice. Hopefully you're not eating dinner on the couch. It's just clumpy diarrhea. Occasionally there's a big spurt of it. I'm sorry, man. Apologies for those who are eating. Some people actually tell me, hey, one of the things I like to do after work is have a steak or whatever and watch some tactical enlightenment, right? We'll have some intestines and raw meat pouring over here. All right. I've fucked with you guys enough. You guys are the only reason I'm here. Now look at how many troops are inside the city, right? You can charge the gate and eventually they'll burst it open, but this is far superior for getting troops inside. Our whole army's inside the city. Look at that shit. I mean, there's so many here, I can't even get over to the other side. I'm gonna have to go around. It's like a gigantic Black Friday Zerg, and the city's ours. Right now, the city was gonna be ours anyways, but it would have been a lot more painful and a lot more casualty-laden had we just charged at the walls, right? So it's just one more technique for you guys to have success in siege. This is vital if it's a really hard siege. Say you're getting smoked here, you little fuckers. Say you're facing 900 defenders and you have 800 attackers, right? Where you have a very difficult siege, you're going to need these tactics. And of course, this will enable you to do stuff that you've never done before, which, by the way, is one of my favorite comments in the comments, right? If you learn from our channel, pick up something here, and you do something you've never done before, I never can time that right. Put that in the comments once in a while. I really appreciate it. It's the greatest testimonial of all, and it also kills the cynics, right? The guys who are like, you can't do that. That's not a thing. It's cheat codes, whatever it is. Those guys can basically be told to STFU because everybody's doing it suddenly, and maybe the next thing you know, they're watching it and they're doing it too. Sometimes you have to sort of show people the way before people eat the Skittles. We'll make up some random analogies here, right? Sometimes guys, they're skeptical until it happens to themselves, and we're trying sort of step by step to teach some of the more advanced things of Bannerlord. Of course, I learned from other YouTubers or other Discord members and stuff like that. Right? I could never even make a list of all the different places I've acquired knowledge for Bannerlord. You know, on our Patreon site, there's guys that have sent me messages saying, hey, you could try this. And I'm like, oh shit, man, that's a really good idea. So I appreciate all the testimonials, and hopefully these tactics and these maneuverings are helping you win at Bannerlord, right? Have more fun, because that's ultimately what we're here for, right? Have some fucking fun, damn it. All right, that was fun. Smashed our way through that city, and there's a nice sizable garrison. Right now, we still have to get the city voted for us. There's a decent chance we don't get it voted for us, but we only have one location, only have one city. We're starting to build up some good influence here. I've been smooching all the nobles every single time I can, right? Like sort of coaxing their egos and stuff like that. So at least we have a shot. We'll probably at least appear on the voting tab, and then maybe we can spend some of our influence to push it over the top. That's my plan anyways. Now I've got another plan here that is it requires that plan working for the second plan to work, and you guys are going to love it, I think. A little bit of diabolical, a little bit of nefarious strategy here. What I love about this peninsula is there's only one entrance, and in a way, and it's one of the very few places, Varcheg is kind of like the gatekeeper to Revel. One of the big advantages of that is that late in a campaign, you can kind of understaff the garrison here at Revel. And what'll happen, I'm thinking about how I want to do this. What'll happen is you can essentially sort of keep the enemy from sieging it because of its distance away. It has to get by Varcheg. A lot of times they're going to siege Varcheg instead, and so you have sort of this commercial asset up here. And of course, Ov Castle. Okay, we get it. Beautiful. That was what I was waiting for, because I'm going to start putting some plans into action here. Revel is ours, and like I said, all those juicy garrison troops now become ours. Now, some of them were ours already. Our player companion armies dropped troops in there. There's a one-way access right there. We're going to do some shit here. Let's see how we do this. I want as many troops as possible in the city, and I'll just spoil the surprise for you. We're going to try to go independent here. We're going to make our own kingdom, and we're going to try to do it with a little bit of chutzpah, pizzazz. I don't know. I can't think of the right word for it. We're going to try to do it with style, right? Instead of just declaring it, we're going to try to basically do so with an edge. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm dumping almost all of our useful troops into the garrison at Revel, and I'll explain in a second. We're probably not going to get voted for Ov Castle. Now, we have enough troops in the other armies, the other vassal armies that are with us, to take it, even if we have hardly any troops here. In fact, I have to have some troops, otherwise we'll hemorrhage a bunch of troops from the garrison at Revel. So we're probably not going to get Ov Castle. That means if we declare independence, I don't actually want there to be a huge garrison in Ov Castle, right? Because then, of course, I'll have to siege that garrison. So especially, I don't want our troops ending up in the enemy's hands here, because, of course, as soon as you declare yourself a kingdom, especially if you say, yeah, we're keeping all our previous cities and castles and whatnot. The enemy's, in this case, Caladog is going to be, oh yeah, you, right? A gigantic F-U-C-K, furious, declare war, and they're coming for us. Well, if this city, or if this castle rather, has a huge defense force, it's going to be a pain in the ass. By the time we siege it, Varcheg might be either sieged or down. Now, this is a tough decision, right? All of these siege ones are actually tough decisions. I'll talk more about some of the siege perks when we have a little bit more time to talk about perks. I don't want to do it right now, and honestly, I'm very much focused on the mission at hand here. All right, so it's intentional that our army is slightly reduced. In fact, obviously, I don't want our player companion armies to have a bunch of our troops, especially like our wildlings and fiend champions, because we'll take Ov Castle here. It's very likely. We have 500. And once we take it, these vassals, including your player clans, will dump troops into Ov Castle. I don't want our player clans just giving away our elite troops, especially since, again, we're not very likely to get voted for Ov Castle. Then we're going to head to Revel and declare ourselves. I guess we'll send a hate mail, an FU mail to Caladog, basically saying, yeah, come get some, right? We're our own kingdom. You're a dipshit. We're ready to fight. Now, the location is great for us, right? Because I can kind of hang out by Varcheg and deal with whatever attacks us as we become a kingdom. In fact, this is probably one of the easiest ways to play Bannerlord. It's just to mirror what we're doing here. Now, I know there's tactics involved, right? But that's why we're trying to show you tactics. But the components of this are like this. We get 2 cities and a castle once we take Ov Castle, once we re-siege it. And it's all easily defendable by that choke point near Varcheg. Even better, Varcheg is outstanding as a castle or as a city to defend. I hope we get a huge defense in this campaign to show you guys. Of course, plenty of you fellas on the channel have already seen us have some epic siege defenses at Varcheg. I would say it's a top 5 city. It's not the best. I think Amitatis may have my vote. There's a couple others. Carbanthith is pretty damn nasty. But Varcheg is excellent for defense. There's a big courtyard. There's a secondary courtyard above the other courtyard. There's a secondary fallback point. There's a choke point. There's fireballs you can throw from either direction. You guys get the idea. And hopefully I can just show you instead of just talking 1,000 miles a minute. All right, so we're actually losing. I guess it's because we don't have that many troops. I can talk about this dynamic since it's sort of stalling me here. God. It's one of the problems, of course, is our asshole trebuchets are attacking the walls. This is bad AI. When they're being pounded by counter siege, they should clearly target the counter siege. Instead, it's like trying to knock the wall down while it gets exploded. Not much you can do about that. It's just one of those situations you just, F it. Let's just go in and we'll do the best we can. At least they don't have like 4 fire catapults. That's a little thing, again, but it would be nice if we had some ability to command the catapults. Imagine if the siege forces at the battle, at the siege of Jerusalem with Saladin, if the siege engineers were like, well, he wants us to hit the enemy catapults inside the city, and the commander's like, to hell with that. Hit the wall. I'll do what I want. Be dismissed pretty quickly. Now, for some reason, we don't have a 1st division here. I don't know. I must have been careless in the setup here. We should still be okay. And I'm botching a lot of this siege here. I'm trying to pick up the ladders that aren't even there. At least it's pretty, right? We can rave about how beautiful the scene is here while I fuck up. Being a YouTuber is no fun sometimes, right? You make mistakes, and it's for everybody to see. You know, it's just the nature of the business, right? When you have literally hundreds of hours of yourself talking like an idiot and playing like an even worse idiot, you know, you just hope there's enough good and not so much bad that you get trolled, you know, from here to Reddit. It's bad enough when you release version 1.3 early. I heard some asshole did that. Did you guys hear about that shit? Some guy actually released 1.3 before he was allowed to. Can you believe this shit? The audacity of some people. Evidently there was an embargo on the 1.3 release, and almost 24 hours before it was available to everybody. This content maker must have been ignorant or something like that, inexperienced, to just released it to the public. There's a dipshit, you know, for every event out there, I'd like to say. Now, this ram has taken a while and our siege tower's down. I'm getting a little concerned. But here's the other thing I just realized. I don't actually give a shit if there are a lot of casualties here. Why? Because if there's a huge amount of casualties here, in a way, I'm like tempted to cause casualties, shoot our own troops. Because we're not likely to get the castle. And the less troops that survive this siege, the less will be put in the garrison. It'll be easier to take if we take a drubbing here. So, you know, we're 4 steps ahead, kind of. Maybe none of this even matters. Realistically, it probably doesn't matter, right? We're just going to smash most of the things we face anyways. But there are some variables that are different for me in this campaign that I'm normally used to. I'm normally used to being rich as a kingdom. This is probably the least amount of money I've ever had. And it's not likely to get better, of course, because of the loot. All right, let's pull these guys to the right here. Let's shove our way through. Just do some shield slams, try to survive. Pull these guys up the stairs. From there, we can kind of flank the enemies and blow a hole for the rest of the troops. This stubborn sturgeons, man. Now, I like it, right? The AI's fighting vigorously here. Catch a shield in the face, you bitches. Bitch-ass militia. Yeah, they're blocking pretty well too. I would say the overall difficulty with Bannerlord has been increased with the patch. There's a bunch of different things that would lead me to say that. Part of it, of course, is the money. The early game is going to be harder for a lot of players. And I had the idea that they should put that in the difficulty settings. I think your brand new player is going to be furiously broke playing Bannerlord early on. Imagine when they get a call to war and their kingdom requires that they pay huge subsidies. They're going to be just as angry as the Germans after 1920. They're going to be like, what the war indemnity is this? And the next thing you know, they're going to be, saying, Heil Battanians and having big marches and burning books and shit like that. So it would be good if the difficulty also reflected the money, because as far as I know, it doesn't right now, right? So the hard difficulty. Anybody in here that wants a rock in the face? Here, volunteer. They've fixed the physics. These guys now truly get decked, and it's satisfying. They look like they're getting hit with a boulder chucked at a good rate of speed. Anybody else? Are there volunteers here for today's comedy skit? It's called Get Hit in the Face with a Giant Boulder. So what else is harder about Bannerlord? For sure, the AI is better. It's not better in all the different areas, right? But there are areas where it's definitely better. Enemy armies are much more resolute, and they form much more solid and lasting armies. Now, it's a small change. They still need to continue to make improvements, but that's definitive, right? The armies that I've seen, they don't break up, and when they do break up, it seems like they're doing it for a reason, not because they have to. Next, the combat is definitely harder. That guy did like a backflip, hit in the face with a boulder. The enemy, for sure, is more dangerous with ranged weapons. I'm willing to say that, even without knowing what the coders would say. I get smoked way more often, especially by javelins, when I'm on a horse moving. The enemy the AI is dialed in. Effectively, it has a cheat code, right? I could probably fudge and make it just hit you if it wanted it to. Let's go around here. This is bullshit, this little logjam here. Let's just pull some of these troops to the other side. They probably don't have 100 infantry jammed up at the ladder there. No reason to stand there and get shot when we can just go around. And this is the kind of thing you'd love to see the AI do. All of a sudden just start running to the other side and run down to the courtyard. It'd be a lot more interesting as a commander because you'd have to act and react in real time. Melee combat, I think, is much harder. Spear combat seems much harder. I've been smoked by enemy cavalry. They don't do very well in a large, massive, and here's a good example of archer, right? I'm holding my shield up and that guy still smoked me. But enemy cavalry in a large body doesn't do very well still. But individual cavalry, they don't miss. They like smoke you with a spear. So it is nasty. And even as an experienced player, I can tell you it's taken me back a little bit. Now I like it. It's good for sure. Right? More difficulty is good. Once people get experienced to Bannerlord, it sort of becomes a walk in the park. But more changes are needed, right? The AI, that was my number one thing I listed in the Tale World developer community. Basically, content creators, they're sort of asking us to ask you fellas, and with our experience, give them suggestions on things that need to be adjusted still with Bannerlord. I think that was my number one suggestion, was AI fixes, predominantly in battle, but also the campaign map. So we'll see, right? Tale Worlds is asking. That's the first step. I think that's my favorite. He's like hyperventilating. I can always picture a guy in a studio over his mic. All right, you ready? Go. He just, it just whines. It's great. It's terrific acting. There is some not so terrific acting, but you got to enjoy the good stuff. Now this is good stuff, right? Is there a more beautiful scene in the game than this? Especially, attached to a victory? That is fantastic. 200 casualties. So that was a bloody siege, but that was partly because they had counter siege. They blew up our siege tower. They limited our access. And maybe I was talking too much to play well. Do a little final thing here. I'm rarely going to fight the little inner citadel. By the way, that would be something they could adjust as well. I'm sure they're like, holy shit, that's a big list you're asking for. I'm not saying we want all these things. We're just hoping for continued improvement. So the inner keep, you never lose, right? I've probably done 20 or 50 or whatever where you charge, and I've never even been remotely pressed by the enemy that's inside it. It would be nice if it was legitimately hard and you had to like hold your shield up and get next to your shields and position your archers, or at least, you know, move around sort of discreetly. It would be a lot more interesting and worth doing. It's kind of like the events. If the events are a nothing burger, people are just going to end up clicking through them, and they might even get more frustration out of them than satisfaction, because of course it's more shit that sort of interrupts their gameplay, and it doesn't mean much. You know, losing 2 troops to the plague, nobody gives a shit. I go to the tavern and I get 7. Or this, look at this. This is why we did this. So this is lining up really well, right? We're not going to get, well, I guess we could get it, but we're probably not going to get Ov Castle. And now we have 400 and something troops here. We're going to be able to, I'm trying to think, let's see, 180 plus 150, 150, 480, right? We can take about 500 troops into our 3 different armies here. We could probably leave some of the scuzziest troops. I don't want to leave the garrison completely empty. I'm not going over for just our party. Of course, I have our 2 player companion armies, and we're going to fill them full of good troops. So we'll put, 70, 80 troops back in the garrison here. For some reason, my troops are out of order here. Give me a second. All of this, all this little fancy maneuvering, and maybe you guys think it was totally superfluous, the benefit is going to be substantive. All of our nobles that are with us are highly degraded, right? They're these little sort of raggedy armies that are bereft of troops because they've been putting them in garrisons. They're all beat up from these 2 nasty sieges. Well, we just loaded our army up with flawless, perfectly healthy, well-rested troops. And the coup is on, right? Start to call the generals, tell them to meet here, because violence is about to occur, right? We're about to send the proverbial carrier pigeon to Caladog with the FUCK in gigantic Celtic letters, and we're going to massacre all of these Battanians shortly after we do so. I think I can come up with, I have another idea to even make this even more sadistic. So I got to put a few of these troops in the garrison. It's a good problem to have. We actually have too many good troops. Now, of course, we're going to be using them, right? Once you become your own kingdom, carnage is coming, and that's a little prop for this series, right? If you've enjoyed to this stage, well, stay tuned, right? At least the next few episodes are going to be highly bloody, fighting large forces. It's very likely the Sturgeons will declare war on us. Obviously, we're going to be declared war on by the Battanians. Here's the boat. We get it. Oh shit. Well, color me surprised. All of that to make sure there wasn't a huge garrison in there. That was stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. In theory, if that went to the enemy, that would have all made sense. But how sweet, right? We don't even have to siege that. So we now have Varcheg, Revel, and Ov Castle all in this peninsula, with a well-defended, well-fortified city at the mouth of the peninsula, almost like the Rock of Gibraltar, ready to defend. Now, I would love to wrangle up some of these brigands, because I need them. These guys are not dangerous to our army. Neither will they be dangerous to our player clan armies. But they'll be dangerous to these Battanian armies with 40 troops, 40, 52, 40, 33. These brigands will gang up and attack these Battanians. Now, what I'm trying to do is herd some of these... it's probably unnecessary. In fact, this is unnecessary. We'll just go do this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump these Battanians down at the end. They're going to be like, it's going to be like a gangster movie where we just dismiss them all. And we're like, and they're like, what do you want? What are we doing? We're like, you just go down that tunnel. We're going to meet on the other side at that restaurant, Joe's, that Italian pizza place. We'll meet you there in a half hour. Look at their attacking the rebels. Perfect, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to unleash our attack dogs right at the mouth of this little secondary peninsula. Then we're going to go declare ourselves a kingdom. Now, unfortunately, they're scurrying almost like they can hear me talking. I wish I stalled them a little bit more. However, their exit out of here is blocked by scores of brigands that are on the other side, right? One of the effects of herding all of those brigands and looters and sea raiders was to essentially push them into the way of these retreating, soon to be running for their life Battanians, right? So the first thing we're going to do here before we declare ourselves a kingdom is we're going to sabotage the fuck my sadist gets to go to work here. I'm a scheming motherfucker. My wife once said, like, I would never want to be the enemy of you because I like to think of devilish ways to fuck people over like this. Basically, what we're doing is we're passing a bunch of hostile policies before we leave the kingdom. It's kind of like throwing in a Molotov cocktail, or however you pronounce that, right into the capital, the administrative capital of the Battanians before we declare ourselves a kingdom here. So now that we've blown up some of the legal wranglings of the Battanians, now it's time to physically blow them up, right? Let's make our kingdom. Of course, you have to have a governor in the city, so I've got our wife here, our very tomboy-looking wife with striking eyes, and our uber unique name here, the Rain of Fire. It doesn't really matter. And we're going to create some carnage in this campaign. There are no flaming arrows, right? That's something I'm not sure why Tailworlds hasn't added. The perfect fire arrow mod or whatever it is, it's amazing cinematics, right? To have flaming arrows going all over the place. Maybe it's not hyper realistic, but it's a cool effect. Now we're already attacking Battanians down there, and look at these poor fucks. They got to fight their way through a bunch of rebels and brigands here. I'm going to be able to catch them. Look at, they can't get out. There's at least 150 Sea Raiders and whatnot. The other two armies are blocking the other troops. This is beautiful. I can't catch them for some reason. There we go. And you guys aren't getting away. And our other two player clans down there are just blocking the rest. So these Battanians, now that they're done doing the dirty work for us, doing the siege, come on, I can't catch them. There we go, catch that guy. I guess a couple might escape. These guys helped us acquire Revel and Ov Castle. We should just behead them all. That would be the ultimate, right? Put their heads on a boat and sail it across the sound with our Declaration of Independence, right? That would be a truly sadist moment. All right, let's kill the rest of these Battanians. Okay, and this episode has gone on long enough. So these guys may make it out. They may not, right? They may run into brigands. They may run into Sea Raiders and whatnot, getting ambushed. You can picture them running for their lives. Holy shit, tell the king we're betrayed. Look at this gal's trying to sneak out. In fact, this is the gal that dissed us. Well, she didn't diss us, but her dad wouldn't marry her. I think we'll take her in chains for a little while, right? We'll have her follow our wagon train. And we're going to capture all of these Battanians, which of course is going to make it easier to pummel them in the upcoming open war. So we now have two cities. We now have a castle. We have strong garrisons. We have a nicely fortified garrison there at Varcheg protecting these other two. We have fully stacked player clan armies with backup troops to go. There's a decent sized garrison still at Varcheg. And we've done about as much preparation as you can, at least in a hurry, for a campaign like this. This is working and setting up nicely here, right? All these nobles are captured. And we can use them for ransom too, but I'm looking down at my money. That's the wild card in future episodes here. 53,000. That is just incredible. I mean, we have been smashing through battles. Here's some nice loot. We've been smashing through battles now for like 7 or 8 hours in this campaign. All kinds of loot, selling as much loot as we can find, and we're still paycheck to paycheck. So I'm sure you guys, some of you guys can relate. We're going to try to figure a way around that. I think the key for you guys paycheck to paycheck is to capture all your oppressors and put them in a dungeon and ask for a ransom. And if anybody gets arrested by the FBI or whatever it is in your country, I am joking, just in case someone doesn't get my dark sarcasm. But I think that would work, right? You'd become rich quickly if you just started taking like your boss and asking for a hostage. Of course, very quickly with modern technology, I would be arrested, you would be arrested, and you would never be rich. And then there'd be no more content. You'd have thousands of people that swing by our channel furious at you that you thought I was serious. So, all right, we'll leave that alone. All right, so we're loaded here, right? We've got a stacked army. We can dump all these weak troops, and we're basically going to have an army of 400 and something right out of the gate that's ready to rock. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Battanians throw at us. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly the Sturgeons declare war, because of course these are all Sturgeon possessions. I think the AI puts that into its calculations. The Sturgeons are basically saying, oh, hell no. This guy just declares a kingdom in our backyard, right? So that's very likely. The Northern Empire is also probably likely, because generally new kingdoms are seen as weak bitches by the AI, as something to just be swallowed up very quickly. Kind of like the Prussians and the Austrians when the French were going through their French Revolutionary period. Boy, were they surprised. And I think this will probably be about as much as I want to pull from this garrison. So now we have 3 player clans. Of course, we can start making actual player clans within, not just armies, but actual player clans within our kingdom, but I don't have the possessions to feel like it's a good idea at this stage. So we're going to head out into Varcheg and the hostile environments of the north here. It's spring, so we've got all summer and fall to kill. And hopefully you join us for that. We're going to continue this campaign. We're going to experiment and experience the changes with 1.3, right? Maybe we'll try to sign an alliance with the Northern Empire and tell them to go stomp the shit out of the Sturgeons for us. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Please hit that like button on the way out. I appreciate you, friends, and I will see you next time.